My name is Chris Berg. I am Director of Community Relations at Georgia Tech, and I am here to welcome you all to the Westside Community Alliance Fall Meeting. And I bring you greetings also from Dean of the College of Architecture, Steve French, and Dean of the Ivan Allen College, Jacqueline Jones-Royster. And it is with their support that we are able to convene such a large group in a very informative meeting. Now, having said all that about the Westside Community Alliance, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, by no means is this something that is all about Georgia Tech. Matter of fact, it's less significant. It's not about Georgia Tech, but more about the communities that we play a good neighbor to. And certainly, for years, Georgia Tech has occupied its space, and Northside Drive has been kind of dividing for this community. And through all these years, Georgia Tech has not come up with any great solutions to improve any of the conditions here. So that brings us to today. And so you'll note that duly there is not a Georgia Tech person sitting up here on this panel. Because we think that while certainly we have a lot of expertise and intellect over there, the answers to solve many of the challenges in this community lie within the community. This is a community.
You should be engaging the people in the community that you interact with, and that makes it much easier. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it makes it easier when you just treat them as you would your friends and loved ones, because that's actually who they are.
We've worked with Professor DeSalvo from Georgia Tech and a few others, and so we are doing a different spin on it. So we're going to do a YouTube project where we go out to the community and film people telling me what they would like to see in their food oasis.
Stories that need to be captured in all of our West Side communities, but definitely within the Proctor Creek watershed, where kids used to be able to play, people used to be able to safely fish, and people used to be baptized there. But now we see a creek in a watershed that is severely impaired and polluted. But it's good for us to try to get those stories, and so we could use the help of students who could help us with some, oral history and some video projects where we are interviewing some of the older residents of the community, of the watershed, to get those snatches of their wisdom, but also to understand what this area used to be like before the neglect, before the disinvestment, and before all of the economic and environmental disparities started to sort of set in.
Here. So give the universities an agenda.
Support local higher initiatives even on your campus. Building safe and affordable housing in the neighborhood. Urban gardens, there's a ton of urban gardens. I see a space over there to register your food network. Helping to start and support business incubator centers. So what I just suggest is come outside of the classroom and really engage in the communities that surround you, because they need you and want you. You have intellectual capital that you're using to get your great grades, and we're glad you're doing that. But use that intellectual capital to really help someone every day.
I think there are opportunities to get engaged in research, and as you are engaging in research, reach out to some of the community-based organizations. Let's find opportunities to integrate local community knowledge with, traditional scientific knowledge. Georgia Tech is obviously doing something well in terms of the way that it's reaching out. Why not let Georgia Tech, try to convene and bring some of the other institutions to the table?
We're having more conversations now about green infrastructure improvement. And that is when you can come up with an alternative plan to deal with all this runoff, providing green space, parks, and stuff like that. So that's what we're trying to implement right now in the Proctor Creek watershed, but starting the headwaters. In the headwater areas is English Avenue and Vine City.
And quite frankly, when you can't have your needs met on a daily basis, you're not concerned about dropping that bag of potato chips or whatever it is you drop. You're not concerned, but ultimately all of this stuff ends up in the storm drain and ends up in the Chattahoochee, and so it perpetuates itself. So, there has to be somewhere, someplace where we all begin to meet the person on the street where they are and give them some of our hope, some of our intellect. We all need more. We need to see our young black men that can achieve show the rest of these young men how to achieve. This is really some simple stuff, and I get passionate about that because, as I said, we already had here a stable, thriving community.
I think we can all agree that the foundation of a great neighborhood, a great community are the schools. And you know, this particular side of town right now is experiencing a lot of changes that are impacting children right now. Not 5 years down the road, but like today. And so what I would love to see is people to be able to really convene their groups, their affiliations, their universities and colleges together to come up with a strategic plan that really addresses the future of the children in this area of town, and in particular, making sure that there's a vertical alignment and it makes sense what we're offering. I think that the children here deserve better opportunities, and that is a conversation that I think has to begin before any conversation. And we've been a part of a lot of community meetings where it seems like the focus is on development and everything else, but honestly, if we can't really talk about stabilizing our schools, stabilizing the leadership in the schools, in this particular cluster of schools, there are more interim principals, and we know without stable leadership, you cannot have a stable school.
One of the issues I think that we can work better on is the relationship between, you know, the colleges and the universities and the young people within the community. And within the community, one thing I think that is significant about me and Chuck's relationship was the trust that I have in him. And, you know, to allow him to introduce me to, you know, Georgia State, and, you know, the people at the Crim Center that allowed me to, you know, blossom into, you know, doing great things. And I feel like that's what we're missing, those relationships, that trust. Because in order for you to, you know, in order for you to allow somebody to introduce you to somebody else, you gotta trust them and you gotta believe that this gonna work. And we miss that a lot of times. We don't have no people that's in the colleges, because a lot of times I talk to a lot of kids that go to Clark, and I be like, I'm from, you know, the English Avenue community, and they don't know nothing about it, and it's right up the street. So I feel like we got to create that bond and create that trust with our young people in our community, so, you know, we can introduce them to the opportunities that they need to be introduced to, and that's it.